What now, Grandpa?
You are going to shut your damn yapper and listen for a change, because I got you pegged, sweetheart. You want to take the easy way out with this surgery because you're scared. And you're scared because if you try and fail, there's only you to blame. Well, Missy, let me break this down for you Bobo style. Life is scary. Get used to it.
And then it seemed like Dr. Kelso wasn't only talking to her.
There are no magical fixes. It's all up to you. So get up off your keister, get out of here, and go start doing the work.
What if it's too hard?
Yeah, what if it's too hard?
Turkleton, I have no idea why you're chiming in, but I'll say this to both of you. Nothing in this world that's worth having comes easy.
My name's Paul.
My name's Andy.
This is the Unpenned Show on the 9th of December 2014. We've had a couple of weeks off over the past month or so.
We have.
Holidays, and you were breaking a leg, basically, yeah?
Yeah.
Anyway, all's well now. All on the road to recovery.
Yes, we are.
Well, I think we are in recovery, you and I, aren't we?
I think we are.
I think we've been through the trauma of the emergency that we were all living in, the cocoon of being looked after by our masters. And we do live in that cocoon if we choose to, don't we? Mm-hmm. And I've learnt over my time of looking at the alternative side that those that want to live in this cocoon, leave them to do so. Because what we've learned over the past 6-7 years is for us. And it's for our benefit. But it's not going to change the world on a bigger scale. But it does change your life on a very much personal scale, doesn't it?
It should, yes.
It does. If you do it properly.
Yeah.
If you don't do it properly, you fight and fall out. And you try and share things that other people don't understand. And I'm guilty.
Yeah.
We've made quite a mess of it over the years, haven't we?
Yeah. People are not ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, it sort of knocks them off balance.
We forget where we started.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We try and introduce reality in a way that makes perfect sense to us, but only after time. If you remember, the initial YouTube awakening was quite simple. It was the birth certificate. It was the legal system and how it fools you, how it's a deceptive system that appears to serve our needs, but of course it doesn't serve our needs. No. It serves the needs of the criminals whose justice system it is.
Yeah.
And this deception is something that's hard to take, isn't it? And then we realise that everything's run as a business.
Yes.
And that's quite a shock for it was quite a shock for us all, really. And then we realise that the money scam is designed so we can never pay the entire total back because the interest is never printed.
No. And
so no matter how hard we try, no matter how much money we give back, the balance will never be cleared because the interest is never printed. And how those politicians keep a straight face when they tell us that austerity is going to work out well for us in the end, and how the national debt can be paid back if we take these following measures, how they manage to keep a straight face when they do this, it's beyond belief, because they know much better than we do that it's not designed to be paid back.
No, it isn't.
Because we can't pay it back. You see, that this is just... It's just ideological. It's just like in our heads, things will get better. Things will get better. I think suffer now and it'll get better in the future. But this is religion. It's just the religion that we now live in, called capitalism or materialism or just money.
Yeah. And it's understanding that money, isn't it? I didn't really understand, and I still don't understand it fully. And you never can, because it's not my specialised subject.
But it's not as hard as you think.
But once you get the basics of it,
the basics is they don't pay the interest.
They don't.
The actual energy that they put out, which we call money, is designed to attract revenue, interest. So it never comes out any other way than on loan.
No.
Loan means it's got to be given back. Go back home.
Yeah.
Every revolution, every circulation, every cycle involves where you started is where you'll finish.
You likened it earlier to the money junkies, didn't you?
They are junkies, yeah.
They're working on a fix all the time. They need the fix. They need the money in. That £375 billion that they put in was just a fix.
But this quantitative easing, 375 billion quid, which has been manufactured, okay, just by pressing buttons. Now, most people say, yeah, but they don't understand the process of pressing buttons and why it's not good for us. Because that 375 billion that was given to banks, so it would enable them to carry on the business of making us poor by lending to us, which is the business of making us poor. But we don't understand that, because we are now brought up in a way of thinking where we have to borrow everything so we can have what we need now.
At that time, yeah.
This is a new way of thinking in the realm of time. 40 years ago, if you're in debt, it was something to be ashamed and embarrassed about. 40 years ago, if you were a single parent, it was something to be ashamed and embarrassed about. Things change. I didn't change them. You didn't change them.
No.
But they changed. So somebody else changed them. We have a social engineering system, and it's called your television, supported by the Bibles of the day, which are the newspapers. And we have red tops, which are for the working class, and blue top, which are for the taking class, and makers and takers. And if you say to the majority of people, if you open up with the, you do realise that you're a slave, don't you? Okay, they can't see the bars. They cannot see the bars. The bars, the music that holds them together, holds them in place. They're not called bars by mistake. This is a trance, an entrance that we've walked into, and we can't find the exit. This is the maze, and we are amazed by everything. But we don't choose to get out.
No.
We like it in our maze. We're in trance, we've walked into the entrance, and we like it. We live in a world of sale. Everything's for sale. And the advertisers work very hard to encourage us to buy the things they have for sale. If we took 2 or 3 steps back, nothing that they advertise do we need. But we look and listen, and we're enthralled by the stories, and they tell us tales. They attach tales to all the stories and products that they want us to buy to make our lives better. They tell us these things will make our lives better, when the truth is that we vote with our money and we make their lives better. Because whatever they make, next year they're going to make another version that's bigger, better, and you should have this one. Mobile phones are a fine example. But before that we had trainers and T-shirts and jeans and all sorts of things that you buy this year's version, but then you buy next year's version, because if you're still wearing this year's version, you're not keeping up with the times, as it were. Well, we do live in strange times, but we don't have to keep up with them. But every item that's for sale has a story attached to it, and that's why when we go shopping and wander around the supermarkets or whatever shop it is, we look at something, recognise its brand. I mean, the stats are that an 8-year-old kid can recognise nearly 1,000 company logos, but can't name 10 flowers. Have a little think about that. He can recognise 1,000 company logos, but he can't name 10 flowers growing in his garden. It's not for me to say what's that all about. It's not for me to criticise the parents or the system. But how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? I mean, is recognising company logos normal? And looking at the flowers in the garden, and we don't recognise which ones are good, which ones are not, which ones are weeds, is that not? You see what I mean? I'm not here to preach to anybody. I'm asking, how do you feel about where we are now? Because we always talk about what we see, and it doesn't matter what our opinion is. That's not what we try and foist upon people. I hope that you and I, we've been trying to be determined over the years to say, that's what we see, and we wonder, why do we do that? Why are we okay voting with our money and making the companies around us richer and ourselves successively more poor? Because poor and poorly have got the same words in them.
They have, yes.
In other words, the more poor you are, the more poorly sick you're going to be. Because you could say that spending money or giving money away is a sickness, an illness.
Yeah.
Would you say?
I would, yeah.
Because why would we choose to do that? When the majority of things that we do think we need are actually to support a lifestyle evolution that we live in. And yet there is a magical time in your lives that you can ignore or choose to follow, and that's at 40-something. When you see it for what it is, how shallow this game is, how simple it is to play upon people who you are really just pretending to be their friends, pretending to help them, but you ain't paying them. They're paying you and saying thank you for the privilege. Very clever, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Very clever. The advertisers don't say thanks very much, do they?
Ever.
You say thanks very much.
Yeah.
You came, you're the customer, you gave the money, you bought the product, and you say thank you. They don't say thank you. They've even got to the point now where we actually advertise their products on the things that we buy. So they're creating repeat customers. And we do know, because the amount of things that we see within our daily life, that's how we connect to what's popular.
Yeah.
You keep seeing Coca-Cola adverts or McDonald's, then that's what becomes popular in the world, because you're surrounded by their logos. And signs are spelled S-I-G-N. Well, that's just a spell of sing. It's a silent language of sign. And we know that the language of sign is just as equally important to the deaf. Well, are we not listening? We don't listen, do we? We don't listen, do we? We listen but we don't hear, or we hear but we don't listen. Every generation blames the one before.
Yes.
For all the frustrations come leaning on their door. You know, Mike and the Mechanics, The Living Years, a very much B-grade song in the 90s. Very much not rememberable for any reasons that I can recall. But now when I hear it completely differently. It's a different song. It means different things. And it's been written by somebody who has travelled the journey that you and I are on.
Yeah.
And the more songs you listen to, the more you realise that it would appear that a lot of people have been on this journey. And we can't get out. We're actually trapped, aren't we?
Very much so.
There are people all over the internet, and there are people that we've listened to that says we can get out. We can't really, unless you want to choose to live with nothing. Well, nobody wants to live with nothing, because the system's designed where you can't even work in this system unless you're part of it. I know people will quote to me that there are freemen around the world who prove that to be not correct, and I'm not going to argue about that at all. But when you need some help with something, an illness or an attack, where are you going to go? Who do you go to when you've got toothache?
Yeah.
Well, you go to the dentist and you have to pay him. Well, that's quite true. But who do you go to when there's something more wrong? Because to live out of this system, which I believe can be done, is to actually enjoy none of the things that make life as we live it today. So I don't advocate trying to get out of the system, and I don't advocate revolution, because to revolution is, to me, to go right back to the start again. A revolution is just one single circular cycle. It starts, it performs its circulation, and comes back to the beginning. A lot of stuff about Russell Brand in the press over the past few months, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I don't know the man, the way he speaks. I can mostly agree with quite a lot of what he says. But he's a TV prostitute. He's a media whore.
Yep.
And has he jumped on a bandwagon? Well, maybe he has and maybe he hasn't. Is he doing more harm than good? It doesn't matter.
He's doing a little bit more good at the moment.
I was going to say he's been listened to by ladies. Some guys, I suppose, but ladies do like him.
They do, yeah.
He's been listened to by people who perhaps wouldn't normally have listened to maybe someone like me.
Yeah.
You know, the example of that was
mainstream.
Well, yeah, the example for me was yesterday. In the shop yesterday, a lady came in at the end of the lunchtime opening, and I forget how the conversation started, but it was Russell Brand. I don't remember how it started, but Russell Brand was the beginning of it. How we got to it, I can't, but it doesn't matter. And she said, who would have thought that Russell Brand is saying things that I agreed with after all these years? She was 40-something. And she says, yeah, I like him. He says things that I can agree with. I used to think I was a liberal, but now I wonder what the liberals are all about. and you know, my ears are perking up now. I'm listening now. And it's not a conversation that I'm going to. Hopefully, I'll speak to her again, and perhaps I can elaborate on this conversation. But the upshot of it was that this lady was a professional lady. She had qualifications, many more than I, and she basically said that I actually worked for £7.20 an hour, and at my age, I sort of thought I could be independent. I sort of thought working full time at my age, with the qualifications I have, I sort of thought I'd be able to live independently. And she said, I can't.
No.
She said, now I have a partner, but ideally, you know, I wanted to be independent by now. But she says, I can't be. And my partner's in the same position. We can live together, but we can't live independently. Now, we see that as being wrong, don't we?
Yeah.
We should be able to live independently.
Well,
should we?
The lie is we're more prosperous.
Well, I'm looking back in history and trying to find, have we lived like this before? The answer is no, not really. Not in these numbers, have we?
No, not in the amount of debt we're in.
But there is lots of evidence that one wage was enough for a whole family.
Yes.
You know, in one lifetime ago, Dad could go out. He could do what would be called a regular job and bring back enough money to pay the rent and all the bills and still save up for a family holiday at the seaside and perhaps run a car. That was pretty much how it used to be 50, 60 years ago.
That's what Karen's dad did. My wife's dad.
But they weren't rich.
No.
But that was enough.
But it was,
and he had 2 or 3 nights at the pub.
Yes.
Yeah, and still there was enough left. Well, we don't see those days here now, do we? Not at our level.
No.
We're the red tops, aren't we? We're the working class. And the red tops are controlled, as I've said before. I don't think many people understand what I mean by this, but it doesn't matter. It's work you have to do yourself, and that is the sun, mirror, and star control system, because that's what we're under. The sun being the religion, the mirror being the alternative that we don't see anymore. What we see in the mirror is what we want to see in the mirror, and we don't see ourselves looking back, and we never ask the right questions. We always complain about the actual results of what's happened, and never asking why it happened. The star control system is quite simple. Put the TV on and pick your star. You know, we really are very simple to control. And the Blue Tops know this control system because it's ingrained into the language, as we've spoken many times.
Yeah.
And the Blue Tops have papers like the Telegraph and the Observer, the Spectator, the Guardian. It tells you straight away that they're looking after this system, doesn't it? They're watching and listening and learning and maintaining this system, because we're the makers and they're the takers. Find me a time in history when that's not been the case.
I know, and we've said in previous shows, how are these so-called news services making money? How many people do you know now that actually buys a paper and actually, or has it delivered to the door?
Well, I do, but not many, no.
There's not many, and there's so many of it online, available free. I think it was The Guardian wanting £1 for a month's subscription, and £1 for all. Now, you do the math. Maths, I hate that word math, it's maths. Do the maths.
But we've spoke about maths and paths. doesn't actually, it does sit together.
It does.
It doesn't rhyme by mistake, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Because adding value, sharing and multiplying, and taking away what doesn't need to be discussed is maths.
And that maths, to pay the journalists' wages, and journalists are well paid. That's the reason they go into these jobs.
Most of them now sort of they're self-employed, aren't they?
Mostly freelance.
I mean, so there's some bit stories, isn't there?
Well, look, Clarkson, he does a few on the does
Yeah.
some work for the Sun.
Now he's a columnist, isn't he?
He
He's a
is,
paid columnist.
paid
Yeah.
columnist. But
How much of it writes? How much of it writes? Who knows?
Who knows? But how many of those are in that paper, and how many of it? But on the circulation of it, you know that it's not making money. So who's paying? Who's paying for its circulation?
How's it living?
Yes.
Where's it getting its money junkie injection from?
Who's the clever
Where's the
accountant
money
that's
junkie,
keeping it going?
Where's the money junkie injection coming from?
Yes.
And who's Mr. Murdoch really working for?
Yeah.
Because if we get into the conspiracy side of life, and if you think life isn't conspiring to make you poor and keep you poor, then God bless you. I hope you're having a great time living. I hope you're paying all your bills, and I hope your kids are happy, because life is conspiring to take everything away from you. We've turned the corner. Bad people are now in charge, and unless we challenge the system, which there's no obvious evidence we're going to, then this is going to complete its cycle of collapse, and that is always signified by World War, and it always ends up in a hell of a lot of people dying, an awful lot of misery, and a new control system being imposed after war.
Yes.
And I think that we're in the Third World War now. Now, whether it goes to a hot war or not, I don't know. The people in the East are learning that the West will have their way with them, and they will do as they're told, and they will modernise and take Western banking systems. And even on my holiday in Egypt, I saw Westernisation everywhere. Even though the people are very religious, and the guys that I spoke to were lovely to speak to, but also very naive, very gullible, and the thing that they concentrated on most was telling me not to eat pigs, because they're just not good. It was an experience going to Egypt, and I think travel broadens the mind in a way that nothing else can. Cultures are different, and what's good for us isn't good for other people.
No.
Even in this country now, we're being mixed to a point that we cannot unite. We've never united at the bottom. You don't realise that, don't you? We never have got together in sufficient numbers. There's plenty of times, plenty of evidence throughout history, which may or may not be true, but there are monuments and historical references of us trying to get together and collectively fighting back against the control system, and
they massacred us.
Yes.
Didn't they?
Yes, they did.
It always ends up in massacre, or been deported to some foreign place that was that needed colonising.
Let's just say that there's no evidence that we've changed much, really.
No.
And sometimes these revolutions are brought on. They're actually instigated on purpose.
For purpose.
And I think you and I are part of this new revolution that's being created.
Yeah.
We're actually designed to do this. We're actually, because of the system that's now being built around us, the spying, the technological advancements, that means that we really can't do anything without it being known, and the level of force that they're prepared to apply to maintain the control. The regular people have got to know it exists, so they actually abide by it. You see, it's okay building it, but now you've got to get the message out that it exists and what it will do if you don't do as you're told. Well, I think you and I can be clearly accused of not making things better.
Yes,
I think we can.
I'd go along with that.
I did call us at one point the point, as it were, where we go see what's coming next. We go ahead of the pack. We run till the next post, as it were, and we're the advance party who comes back and reports on what the future is going to hold. And of course, I do feel that we've been serving the system. But over the past few months, I'm hoping the shows, we've tried to turn them around a little bit and talk about what it is that we can achieve if we actually think differently. And thinking comes after the computer's turned off. Thinking doesn't come while you're watching it.
No.
And thinking doesn't come into reality until you can speak it. It only ever lives in your head. The freedom that we can achieve here is actually the freedom to think the thoughts that we independently want to share, rather than copy and paste and be somebody else, so we can be recognised as being smart, when all we're doing is copying somebody else's words. This is a difficult a difficult definition to get over. But if you can say it, back it up, and say why we are where we are, then you've come a long way as to actually just copy and pasting what somebody else says.
Mm-hmm.
If you can have a whole conversation about what's happened, how we got here, why we got here, and why a lot of people don't choose to listen to you, you're going to get a lot more attention than just making a claim about things you've just learned. But it takes a long time, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
When I first, sort of became aware of not how it worked, but how it didn't work.
How it didn't work.
Yeah. The mafia, CIA, look at me book. All the names that I can remember I had down as, let's just do the inverted commas friends bit. They're not here no more. They jumped on Facebook, did what everybody else is currently doing on Facebook, and they're not here no more. They've moved on, and good for them. But where have they gone?
Mm.
You see, I think really, I've experienced this now. I've experienced it. Do people understand that we're trapped and then give up trying to get out and just get on with life? And can you blame them for doing that?
No, you can't, really. No.
Because anybody who tells you we're not trapped and we can get out and we can escape, you need to ask that person some questions. Who are you? Where do you live? How do you sustain yourself? And what special skill do you have? And they won't answer that question. They won't.
No.
They won't, because they're interested in selling you a future that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and
that's why you're listening to them.
And we experienced it, didn't we? It has become...
the lawful bloody bank.
I was looking
That was the bloody one that... talk about... But I can still smell it now.
Every one of them's got... it's just... it's a big begging bowl, isn't it? It's asking... we do... and I'm proud that we don't ask for any money. We come and do this on a Tuesday night. We just do a few hours. We try and bring what we've sort of collated over the week, which usually isn't very much. But in all this time. But
it's because the message doesn't change.
It doesn't.
The message is focus on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be selfish. Right? Don't sell each other out. Selfish, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, don't sell your friends out. Don't do that, because that's what selfish is.
Mm.
And it's not a mistake, that's the word. It's not wrong, that's the word. You'll hear all over the internet, you'll hear the etymology of words. You'll hear the version of why this means this and why this means that. And you know what? Because Google and the dictionaries say so, so be it. Mm. But we know something different to that, don't we?
Yep.
And I will never, ever be convinced that we're wrong. Because every day of every week I'm more convinced that this is so simple. It is, isn't it?
Mm.
There's no doubt about it. This system requires money, first of all.
It does.
Right, you want freedom. Now, you can have freedom by achieving it in your head, thinking for yourself. If you can't agree with me on that, you don't already have it. But freedom is limited to what you think in your head. If you think freedom is mobility, try doing it without money.
Mm.
Have a bash at doing it without money, because your mobile phone is the illusion of mobility, because you're going to have no money.
Mm.
You ain't going to be able to go anywhere. The redistribution of wealth is not to bring China up to the levels of income that we've enjoyed.
Definitely not.
There's no way that that's going to work.
Nope.
If you haven't figured it, we're coming down to the levels that they currently have to suffer under.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sees a blue planet with countries and borders, flags and peoples, religions and denominations. No, they don't. Big business doesn't see that. Big business sees resources.
Opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who'll do it cheapest? And where can we get it from cheapest?
Yeah. The winners and the losers.
The makers and the takers. The makers and the takers is something that actually repeats through life all the time. The takers are people who don't want to work. They don't want to work, and they've no intention of really working. And they usually talk quite a lot, and they usually make a lot of lists of things that should be done. You don't realise the list is for you to do. You've never figured that out yet. And it comes in relationships, whether it be work or personal. It comes in political relationships, and it comes in customer relationships. And it's just a hierarchy of control. The people who come in my shop, they think they're in charge. They think they're in charge of what's going to happen in my shop. And they have no problem saying the customer's always right. Customer is king. And I go along with this illusion. But it's just an illusion. Because it's my shop. And I'll decide if they get served. And I'll decide if they pay. And I'll decide what they pay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an illusion to take the money off them. So I'm guilty of playing that illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now look around in your other relationships and tell me one relationship that's not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me one relationship that is not telling you and selling you what you want to hear and taking your money off you. It's illusion.
Mm-hmm.
The person who takes the money off you is in control.
Yeah.
Because you went to their house for it.
Mm.
You went to them.
Yeah.
So even though I've paid, I'm in charge, I choose. No, you don't. The reason you went to their house or their business or wherever they are is because you couldn't make it.
Mm.
You couldn't make what it is they had to offer, but you wanted it.
Mm.
So when it comes to who is in charge, it's not you.
No.
Definitely not you.
No. And even to the point of, you can say, I'm not interested in winners and losers. It's got nothing to do with winners and losers. Then
it's a race. If you don't take part, you become a spectator.
And yes, those taking part and those spectating. And I was going to liken it to, I'm privileged. I've got to a grand old age of 48. I'm hoping to make 50, 60, maybe 70. But there are a lot of people that die young, and they say the good die young. Only the good die young. And is that a case of winners and losers? Are we a product of winners and losers? In that we've won because we're still here.
Good point.
And they've lost because they've gone?
I don't think so, do you?
I
think when young people die, it's because there's just unfortunate circumstances, isn't it?
Well, in the Darwinian state of play, in the survival of the fittest, then are you a winner or a loser in that situation? Is it as simple as that?
We have very little experience of looking after a society of 64 million people, do we?
Mm-hmm.
And because our worlds are relatively small, we see everything on a smaller scale, don't we? So we try to deal with things on a person-by-person basis. In other words, we can't generalise because it's not accurate to generalise. You know, I mean, Clinton cards have just been slated for marketing a Christmas card with Father Christmas on the front, and behind him is a council estate.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 reasons why Father Christmas would live on a council estate. That's on my Facebook page. So that's generalising people in council estates. It doesn't mean they're all thieves.
No.
It doesn't mean they all take drugs and drink at night time. It doesn't. But it was.
It doesn't mean they're all losers either.
Right. So it was just a Christmas card, and they withdrew it from sale. But it was quite contentious for those that are bothered by things like that. Mm. And I understand stereotyping is very much the stylus, the style that we've been, the us style. Remember stereo and type and record and circle and arm and style and needle and us
and spin.
Nothing disc jockey. Okay, nothing is wrongly named, is it?
No.
It's our difficulty in understanding why it's named what it is. I know the record player that I've described, the method of making music, and the word ANCE on any English word involves us joining in with the dance. You know, are we human or are we dancing? And that's from the Killers. And we don't understand how simple this system is, because it is so simple in the words that we're given to use that it seems unlikely it could be true until you take a moment to study it. The system knows it's built on lies. It's stories with flaws in them. And because we're coming to Christmas, we have a perfect example of a story with loads of holes in it. It is a very holy story, isn't it?
Mm.
And even kids of 3 or 4 years old question its authenticity. But because the adults back it up, because Father Christmas is placed on cards, in schools, in supermarkets and shopping centres, because the adults back it up, and the religion, the altar, says it's true, that's television, then even the kids at 3 and 4 and 5 years old, who are a bit confused how he gets down the chimney, how he can be at my school and my pal's school at the same time, how he gets to be on TV and in the supermarket, the kid already has questions as to how this single entity appears to be everywhere. But the adults back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid, even though his common sense tells him this can't possibly be true, he overrides that because the adults tell him it is. Are we all children? Are we all children in our understanding? Well, the answer to me is yes.
We're kept like children.
We act like children.
Treat like children.
But we act like them.
And we do.
We get awfully bad-tempered if we don't get our own way, don't we? And we want somebody to give it to us. Mm-hmm. We want someone to make us happy. We want someone to make us rich. And we want someone to give us a house so we can live happily ever after. We want a Disney version of life. We don't have a bloody clue how we're going to actually achieve it, but we want it. Mm. And as every generation goes past, we expect it more and more. The fact that relationships are falling to pieces right in front of us, the fact that we have the highest divorce rate, the highest single parent rate, and the whole world, our little world, England, the UK, it's everything about it isn't working out like we thought it should. We still don't ask the right questions, do we?
No.
We always blame the other person for the fault. When, if you step back a little bit, it's not the guy and the girl's fault that they've tried to make a successful relationship. It's not their fault that they're trying to make a success of it. But you have to look at the hurdles, obstacles, and difficulties that are put in their way regarding that success.
Mm-hmm.
Has capitalism been a winner? Well, for some, yes. But for most, it's actually what's torn the relationship apart.
Mm-hmm.
Because how hard do you have to work just to survive?
Mm-hmm.
You see a life on TV that is considerably better than yours. And then you ask, why can't I have that? It's bloody poison, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
We live in a world of bit by bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Father Christmas. Now, Father Christmas has got another name, hasn't he? And we know Father Christmas comes in a grotto. So we wonder, what else can we find in grottos? What else do we find that meet in grottos, do you know?
No, I'm trying to think. Trolls, I don't know.
Satanists.
Oh, do they?
Satanists. Their collectives are known as grottos.
Oh, are they?
Mm-hmm. So, probably just coincidence. The fact that he rides on a sleigh is probably just coincidence, isn't it? The fact that he visits children in the middle of the night and comes to their bedrooms on the proviso that they've been good and they keep quiet about him, probably just coincidence, isn't it?
Mm.
The fact that he takes all the credit for the presents on Christmas Day when he doesn't actually make, deliver, or pay for any of them. Why do parents do that? Why do parents give him the credit when he didn't make, deliver, or buy any of them?
No.
What is it for?
Mm. What is it for? I know.
I know the simple version is because children remember Christmas. Children remember Christmas. It's part of your childhood memories. It's part of being little. In fact, almost your first few years, your 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you look forward to Christmas all year.
Mm.
You're actually waiting for the next Christmas to come. And because you're so little and because the days are so long, it takes forever for Christmas to get here.
Yeah.
So our lives are, in many ways, the early record is Christmases. Why? Why? Why do we do that? Because we're not religious, are we? Not in the way that...
Not the way that we used to be.
Not the way perhaps we used to be.
No.
So why? What magic exists on the 25th of December that doesn't exist any other day? What is it that's ingrained into us that we should learn from and question why we don't or are not able to create that feeling any other day of the year? Because everybody on the 25th of December wakes up with an almost determination to be kind and considerate, compassionate, and to have a good day.
Yep.
And they're determined to. And should you go out on Christmas Day and wander across the marketplace or wherever it is you live, should you see somebody else on your journey, you actually know you have to say good morning and happy Christmas, because they're going to say it to you. But you don't mind, because you want to. So why the day before didn't you? And why the day after are you not going to? There is something in this description that doesn't actually... It isn't there. It isn't in our understanding, is it?
No.
But it is. But we don't understand it. Why are we kind, considerate, compassionate? Why are we so determined to have fun? And why do we think giving presents to others is how we're going to have a good day? Because it's how it's bloody done, isn't it?
Well, I was just going to say it's
It's
ingrained,
how it's
isn't
done.
It's built on want, isn't it?
Yeah, but we spend hundreds of pounds for the one day, making ourselves poor to make big business rich.
Yeah.
Well, if we just took a moment and realised why we bloody enjoy the day, it's the joy of giving something to somebody and seeing them open it. It's actually giving the present and watching the reaction. We don't mind what's been bought for us. We want that the person that we've bought for to really appreciate the effort we put in to buy the present that we wanted to give them. So we go to somebody else to get it.
Yeah.
We're fools, aren't we?
And I think you'd mentioned the word want about 3 times there in that little sentence.
But we don't get it.
No.
What makes us happiest is helping other people who we know can't help us back. There is something saintly about that makes us feel how we bloody well should. But somehow the advertisers have hijacked it, and now we have to go and give them hundreds of pounds to recreate the feeling that we can actually have for free any day of the year. How sad is that?
They've customised it, haven't they?
The Satan clause. If you're good, I'll come visit you.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really give you anything, does he? Is that a microcosm of how the big adult world of the darkness that we're told it exists really is? Is it all illusion? Do we really think that they're actually burning kids at Christmas? Do we really think they're sacrificing adults at Easter? Do we really think that's what they're doing?
Not really. You don't believe that, really, do you?
I do know that they're bound together at the next level up to maintain the illusion. And I know that if someone taught me this is how we maintain the illusion, we get them really mad. We get them really mad. And the ones that study this stuff, the ones that really want to learn, we tell them we're up to bloody all sorts. And they get really mad at us. And because there's an entire control system in place, they can never get to us. Those that want to join, they know the price, because they've researched it too. So we actually end up recruiting psychopaths who'll do things that compassionate people won't. Because empathy and caring for others, it can't be allowed in a 64 million people control system. We can't deal with all these people and their troubles on a case-by-case basis. We have to treat them in classifications. So the ones on the bottom get treated like this, the next level up get treated like this, the next level up get treated like this, and like all big businesses, the people on the bottom do the most work and know the least of how it goes on, and the people at the top, they know the most and do the least work. So I would say pretty much that's how it stacks up. Are they really sacrificing kids and animals and whatever? Probably. Probably. But I don't know. All I know is to bind these people together, and the silence that's required for this to work properly, it's going to have some holding mechanism. And whether they're doing it or whether they just say they're doing it, either way, we are told this is how it's done. And that'll recruit psychopaths. Because you don't want to join a cult that sacrifices children. I don't want to either.
No.
So we don't want to join.
No.
Well, the way of filtering who they want and who they don't is how this is done. And remember, the more people talk about this stuff, the more jealous or envious they actually are. Because what happens is, once you learn enough about how this system is stacked up, you actually become, well, you sort of admire it a little bit, don't you? You do admire it a little bit, don't you think?
I think it's more wonder how it's, because we're
human nature.
Because we're not that type of human nature, are we? As we've just said, we wouldn't involve ourselves in those kind of things.
But look around the weak. The weak will always be fooled. The weak can always be bought, because we've not really spoke about makers and takers properly yet. We do every week, but we haven't finished it for this week, have we? The takers are weak, unskilled, so they learn to be lawyers. Lawyers just have to learn a language that we need to defend ourselves from them. So they just attack us. They just attack us from that side, and we run to them to defend us from that side. It's all about money.
Yeah.
It's all about money. They have to create situations to get paid. I mean, they create situations never ending. Remember the tripping over footpaths one? Where there's a blame, there's a claim.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And now it's anybody who's moved house over the past 2 or 3 years. How many people would like to tell me that the house sale went straight through, not a problem? Or how many people would like to tell me in the last week they come up with a problem they should have discovered weeks before? The house sale was delayed, it cost us hundreds if not thousands more, the other lot pulled out and we had to start again, but the bill was still payable. You see, we don't really believe how this works because we wouldn't do it. Is it possible solicitors sit down and say, business is very slow, isn't it? So we're going to have to make more money out of those that need our services. So we're going to have to come up with all sorts of new ideas. And the latest one is emotional abuse.
Yeah.
And as the government are withdrawing all the safety nets that were given to poor people so they can defend themselves, as the money to help has been withdrawn, we can't draw on that. So the system is trying to make us poor now. So we need to supplement our income by taking it from those that have still got it. So it is in our interest to try and jeopardise house sales and business sales, because we still get paid. But if we can't sell the same business more than once, let's not sell it by jeopardising the sale. See? So we can sell it 2 or 3 times before it even moves, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that. You haven't spent time talking to these people. They don't have anything if they don't have us.
No.
We don't need them. They've built a system where we think we need them. If you've got your house deed and I've got my house deed, we just need to swap them over and tell the registry. What the hell do we need them for? Deep down they know. But they'll never admit it. They'll never say, look, you guys could do this yourself, really. It is quite simple. You could pop down to the council, to the offices at the council, check out the searches, pop down the library and make sure you've got the right documentation. You can download it all from books that are in the library. Do your own bit of documentation, have your house sold between you in 3 to 5 days if you wanted to. Be too damn lazy, aren't you? You're too damn lazy, so we do it for you. And we charge you bloody thousands.
And we've got a bit of paper to say that we can.
Exactly. Right, now we mentioned solicitors, didn't we, a little bit earlier? And how slowly but surely they're going to become poor as well.
Yeah.
Solicitors, lawyers, barristers, judges, that sort of thing. Because, and out of all the people perhaps we should have sympathy for, I'm not sure I can be sympathetic to their cause. Because they know what they've been doing for a long time. They do know what they've been doing for a long time. I've spoken to enough now and challenged them enough to, I spoke to one and said, this isn't Alice in Wonderland existence, it really is. This is a lie wrapped in a fairy tale sold to us by bloody Walt Disney. And he laughed, he said, yeah, it is. And I was sort of annoyed with him. And I was annoyed with him and all his ilk because they know that they're milking us. Like the cattle that they call us.
Yeah.
Remember the lady in red story that I tell you, which was 2 or 3 Christmases, about 3 years ago now. And she was a copyright lawyer. Do you remember her? And she said that because I was doing the fish and chips analogy and about the batter and the boat and the dripping and the fish and the fry and that sort of thing, about how that, it's an analogy of the life we live, because we're not smart enough to build our own ships. We're marooned, but we don't build our own ships. We don't crew it ourselves. We don't build a team. We don't row together. We row and fall apart. And the best thing we can do is buy our own canoe and row your boat gently down the stream. It's just you and yourself. Because we don't understand how to build teams. The reason why we can't build teams is because we're too busy surviving.
Yes.
If we could get to the next level where we had enough,
yes,
and we always had enough,
and time to,
yes, then we would network. Then we could join with others and amass what could be called a team or a force. A team is just a spell of mate. Teams is mates. The shipmates or the teams have captains, and they understand above us that they have to work together to keep their income improving. We scrabble about fighting amongst ourselves for what little scraps are available to us.
Yeah.
So we can't actually make our teams. Anybody who you listen to on the internet says we must come together, we must unite. These are all ideas. Ideas are lovely, and all these ideas are peaceful. But history isn't peaceful, is it? History is violence. It is nothing but violence. History is documented by war, revolution, and death. The ideas are peaceful. Could we make the claim, Your Honour, that we're actually being domesticated by this journey? Could we make the claim that too many are being domesticated by this journey?
Yeah.
Hug trees, hug whales, save dolphins.
Yeah. Don't contribute.
Love and light.
Yeah.
Love and light. That's right. Yeah. Just opt out.
Opt out. Yeah.
Opt out.
I'm fighting it by opting out. I'm not contributing to it.
But the upshot of that is to be frightened and lonely. Because that's not how you're going to get out of this. You're going to be frightened and lonely, and a voice in the dark, a candle in the wind. That's all you're ever going to be. Because it's awful, this. But if you ain't got any money, you're broken. You can't get out. You can broadcast and transmit all you like, but actually, you're crying for help, aren't you?
Yeah. It's
a cry for help. It's nothing more. And the people that you're actually appealing to, they need help too. You and I are self-employed. This gives us a different perspective on life. We understand that we're responsible for our decisions, the risks we take, the decisions we make, and the outcome itself. And if the outcome is favourable, then we've made a profit. And if the outcome isn't favourable, then the opposite is true. And we're prepared to take that risk in life.
Yeah.
Most people aren't.
No.
Most people don't understand what I mean by that risk.
No. And what I've noticed this week, I don't know how it links into what you were saying, but it just made me think of something, was when we put our YouTube videos up, and you put them up, and we get comments, we acknowledge those comments, or we try to, don't we?
You do, yeah.
I know I've missed a couple, and I've gone back and I looked through the other shows, and I've thought, oh, I've missed that one. I must comment back on that one. And then I made a note of looking through the other little videos that I'd been looking at that people had put up in this so-called movement, and they ignore the comments. They don't actually go back and have a look and see what people are writing and say, and they don't even say thank. Even if there's some nasty, and there are some nasty comments, and that's what it's there for, to vent your frustration, to blow at the sail. But use your windpipe to
Air Force,
to express how pleased you are or how upset you are by it, and they've not got the audacity or even the courage to go back and say thanks very much.
Well, it's a courtesy, isn't it? It's a
courtesy, really. Yeah. And I can't say any of them that I looked on, that the gurus that I've and some of them had comments disabled, and I thought, now there lies a problem. Well, that's where you become. That is, the lady is not for turning. That is part way to being a dictator.
It is, yeah.
When you cannot accept any criticism whatsoever.
There's plenty out there can't take it.
They can't take it. No.
The small criticism we've received is educational.
It is.
It's educational on two levels. One, your complaint, whatever it may be, tells me a lot about you, and the second is the fact that you're prepared to make it, which is fine by me.
Yeah.
Because we're sick of invisible gobshites. They're always full of, you know what I mean. But when it comes to it, what you gonna do? They're gonna do nothing.
No.
They're gonna like, comment, share. What's tomorrow? What's tomorrow? More presents. Here's another present or a new story. See, news stories are little presents, aren't they?
Yes.
It tells you what's going on now. So here's another present. Who are you going to share that with? Here's another present. Who are you going to share that with? And the presents come so thick and fast that you can't remember how many presents you've had today. And that's a small scale on a big problem.
It is.
The reason why the people don't comment is because they couldn't care less what you think.
No.
They've actually vented what they wanted to say.
Yep.
And and you can quote me on this because I've said it before. I don't care what you think about me. And please don't be offended when I say the next line, because I don't know you, and I don't care about you. But I want you to care about you. And I want you to care about what matters. And what matters is who you are, what you do, and what you say to people who actually might be able to become part of your team.
Yes.
Anybody else who is poorer than you isn't going to help you. This is awful truths that we don't share with many people, because apparently we're all equal and your status in life doesn't matter as long as you all want the same thing. This is absolute rubbish sold to you by people who actually have an interest to sell you things. This is rubbish. You find people like you who want to achieve the same things as you, and if they have the same starting point, then the chances are you might be successful. If they don't, you won't. You won't be.
You won't.
You won't be successful. No. This journey is full of pitfalls, hurdles, challenges, and bloody liars.
Yeah.
Proper outright liars who actually just want you to worship them. And what they do all day is they try and find something that they deem that you're going to find interesting. It's a popularity contest. How many likes and comments can I get today? And once they get addicted to likes and comments, they have to keep producing the goods, because they deem that they've got you on the hook. They deem that they're catching you, and now they want to sell you something. and they jolly well will try. Subscriptions or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just want your worship.
Mm.
Sometimes they just want your worship, and sometimes they get, I'm going to quit. Oh, don't. Oh, don't.
Yeah.
All right, I want them. It's your psychological profile. Your Facebook page is your psychological profile. And whether you think it is or it isn't, it doesn't matter. It is your psychological profile. So when everybody goes to have a little look, what's on there is what you want it to be on there. And if it's full of woo-woo, love and light stuff, you're a dreamer. There's nothing wrong with dreams, except they actually mean you're still asleep. Even though you claim you're awake, that sleeping might be occasionally a nightmare, but it's not reality.
No.
We are being stolen. Our lives are being stolen by a fortune teller. And this machine here is a fortune teller. It tells you, should you choose to watch the film Scrooge, or Scrooge, whichever version you want. This thing is just exactly the wake-up process that everybody claims they've been through, and nobody describes it the way we do. Nobody. I can't find them doing it. Why do we do this show every week? This is the start of an understanding that we try and share with people. Because if you get nothing from our show, then however it's working out for you is not at all how it worked out for us. And the number of books that I've read tell me that the way I'm doing it and the way we're actually journeying through this is sort of how it works out. You should feel like you've died. You should feel that. But it doesn't just happen once.
No.
It happens to you time and time again. It really is a roller coaster that never stops the ride until you hit the buffers, which is the end. Just when you think life is actually going well, all's calm and you're sailing into the sunset, along comes a storm, and you never see it coming. Because the weather forecast looks sunshiny and a cloudless day. 7, 8 years now we've been going at this, haven't we? And how many major falls have you taken, would you say, over that time? And I'm talking major falls.
Probably a couple a year. So, yeah, at least a couple a year, if not more, because you feel you're doing so well, and then you
and then something happens.
Yes, you're just down
something
in the dumps
happens
again.
Something happens. The world shows you something that you didn't want to see, and then you see it, don't you? And sometimes it can also be in your own behaviour. It can actually be something you've done, and you think, why did I do that? Why did I say that? That's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I wanted to happen. This is where the mirror comes in handy, because you actually have to say to yourself, what happened there? Because you never are going to be in full control of what happens. And there is something called a spirit that comes in the shape of vodka or brandy or rum, and that makes things different. Sometimes it can bolster your courage, and sometimes it can collapse your defence, because you don't think properly. You become too brave. You take too many chances, and you see things that aren't there. That's the thing about spirits. They also can make you see things that don't actually exist. It happens. It happens to us all.
It does.
We're all guilty. And those are lessons that are hard to learn, because it's a self-discovery. And just when you think things are going well, life kicks you in the teeth, and it's usually your own fault. And you never realised until you've done it.
No.
I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. I've sabotaged more than one or two things that I shouldn't have done, because sometimes I want it to be right. You find yourself subconsciously, you think, well, that's not going to work out well, and then subconsciously you try and make out that it doesn't, so you're right.
Yeah.
That's a lesson that I realised I was doing a long time ago. I want to be right, so I do everything to make sure it goes wrong, so I am. Why do we compete with each other? Why don't we just compliment each other? Why don't we just accept what people have to share? Why don't we do it, even though I've knocked solicitors this evening, I've knocked them. Why don't we learn from the way that they actually discuss their cases? Because they discuss it in the way that I can say what I want, and I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm saying what I see. And then you discuss what you want, because you say what you want to see, and just say what you see. And I have to accept that's what you see, and now I have to understand why you see it. But it should never be a personal attack, should it? It should be, this is what I see, am I right or am I wrong? And here's my evidence to back up what I've seen. But then at the end of it, you should be able to shake hands and say thanks for that. Because isn't that the most important part of being able to accept what you're showing people? Critique of the show, whether it be personal between you and I, or from somebody we've never met, is the only way we learn. We learn who we are and how we're doing. We learn what you can hear, and we learn what you don't know.
Yep.
If only we could do these lessons in life, but somehow we compete. Somehow we compete. You ever met anyone that you like all parts of them? No.
No.
You have to do the compromise, don't you?
You
Do I like more than I don't like?
Yes.
Well, that's how a team's built. When we look at politics, is there a party where we agree with everything that we'd like? No, of course there isn't. But you have to decide where your morals are. And your morals are wherever you sit. I mean, I know you're told in the early part of this understanding, don't watch TV, don't read the newspapers, don't listen to so-and-so, don't listen to so-and-so. And politics is the problem. And to a point, to begin with, you do need to switch off the outside sources and just take a moment to discover what the hell it is that you actually know. And it's an awful shock because you don't realise you don't know anything.
No.
You realise that you actually hate silence, you hate your own company, and the more time you spend on YouTube, you become bloody paranoid. But this is all the early days, isn't it? This is the early days of understanding that it's time to grow up. As time goes by, you realise that politics rules your world. Like it or lump it. Disagree with it or not. Politics rule your world. And they ain't going nowhere.
No.
You can read stories about Europe is going to make Westminster become obsolete. And the politicians have only got a certain shelf life left before they become not required. Probably true. Probably true. But please don't think your life's going to get any better. Because to be ruled by Eurocrats in Brussels won't be a better alternative.
No.
We could bring down Westminster. We could burn the place to the ground. What do you think's going to change? The control systems are all in place. Where this system's going is where it's going. But you don't have to join it. You can release yourself and enjoy a modicum of freedom, and then your understanding of how to maintain your freedom and your wealth and your sanity is up to you.
Yeah.
Because there will be life after this version of the money system we have, but it will be different to what we have today. We won't be here, but our kids won't be.
Yeah.
Will they become parents? Well, probably not.
No.
The desire to have children and buy houses and learn to drive is slowly being eradicated.
It is, yeah.
I don't know how on earth they managed to do that. How on earth do you get a generation say, not really fussed about kids, not really bothered about driving, houses? No, I'm not too bothered.
No, I can rent one. It don't matter.
I do, I suppose, know how that's done. It's to deny them the actual access to the money to do it.
Yeah.
Because you and I only actually achieved those things by access to debt.
Yes, we did.
We wouldn't have had those things if we hadn't have been given access to debt. They called it credit, and it sounded lovely. But actually, would I have bought a decent car without debt? No, not when I was younger. Would I have learned to drive? Well, yeah, I would have learned to drive. Would I have bought a decent car without debt? No. Would I have bought a house without debt? Definitely not.
No.
Well, they don't have access to that.
No,
because their wages and income is going down,
going
and down, and
yes,
down,
and the prices are going up and up.
So somebody is socially engineering it.
They are.
So we become poor.
Poor, yeah.
There is a song called Rise, isn't there? Rise Up or something about... what's that? Remember that? I've played it before.
Yeah.
And it's about, over the years, our productivity has increased, but actually the money we take home has decreased. They actually wondered what we'd do with all our time because of the innovation and technological advances that we've enjoyed. But all these improvements have not actually made our lives better financially. We've just been working harder and harder and harder. It is called Rise Up, I think, isn't it? The official video.
It is, yeah.
I'm going to find it, actually. I'm going to find it.
But that links in... taking it back, 1796, the first pound note was printed.
1796?
1796, the first pound note was printed with a promissory note.
I didn't know
So
that.
they were getting rid of the gold and the silver and the copper. And we're going into the next generation now where the plastic money's been printed. They've already got a company involved with it. I think it's going to be sometime next year. The £5 and the £10 notes are going to be plastic. And this is a Barbie world that life in plastic is fantastic. And
well, look at the girls.
we
Look at the girl. If you call a girl a Barbie, it's offensive.
it's offensive. But look in your wallet. I've got a wallet here with me tonight. I look in it. There's no money in it. There's 3 cards in there, plastic cards, and it's going to tokens. And the reason we're going to tokens is because of we talked about earlier, the interest. The only bit they're interested in is the interest. And the thing that we didn't talk about was the actual burning of the money.
Right.
They burn you borrow £200 and you pay that £200 back, but they want £200 in interest. So they keep the interest, but they burn the £200 that you've paid in. And that's why they have the serial numbers on the notes, isn't it? So that they can keep a track of what they're printing and what they're burning.
The word mortgage is, of course, as most people know, a death pledge.
Yeah.
And these people are serial killers. They're serial number killers.
They are.
Okay, and you're absolutely right. The interest that they charge on whatever it be £1,000, whether it be £100,
it's the only real money that's created.
The £1,000, whether they give you it in cash, whether they give it in digital money,
yes,
doesn't matter. When it comes back in, it has to be destroyed.
It does.
The £100 is the bit they can keep.
Yes,
and they can spend that as they wish. And that's why we go back to: would we be able to buy houses without debt? The answer was no.
No. And
we pay for our houses twice. And every house you've ever been, every house around you that you can see, that it has been mortgaged. Every time it's sold, it's paid for twice.
It is.
The banks, it's impossible to run a bank and lose money. But apparently it isn't.
No. And then you ask yourself, which I was asking myself the other day, how do these companies offer you a sofa on 4 years interest-free credit? How do they offer you... I've noticed there's a catalogue more at the moment offering the kids' toys on interest-free credit. And there's a toy there, it's £100 and it's 52 weeks, however much it is, and it comes to that. At the end of the 52 weeks, you've paid £100.
But you know the answer.
Yes.
You know the answer. Because you're not having to borrow for it.
No.
You're not having to borrow for it. So they're actually getting, they basically are, they're just stick the interest on. The interest is their profit.
It is.
That's the bit they're interested in.
But
they're not a bank.
No, but the other side that you don't see, they actually do a thing called factoring. They factor that invoice out to a company that gives them the money on your promise. So whichever sofa company it is, whichever catalogue company it is, they get paid for the invoice, so they're getting the money. And then on your promises of paying it every week or every month, and that's where the money is. On them actually factoring that invoice out, so they split the difference of that invoice. So the company gets paid. The company that's giving you the sofa gets half the money, and the factoring company gets half the money as well.
So these are hedge fund investors.
Exactly, yeah.
That's who it is.
That's all it is. It's just like the stock market.
That's what investment banks do.
That's just how investment banks work, yes.
That's how they work, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course it is. It's only ever about money.
Mm.
At the very highest levels, it's about control.
Yeah.
But at every level below, it's money. It's just money. And whether you like it or not, or whether you believe me or not, it doesn't matter. If you haven't got any, you're not going anywhere.
But
you're not going anywhere no matter what you do.
But that's where it fits with the illusion of us, this austerity and trying to pay the debt off, and the debt's still going up. It's, what is it now?
It's 45% more than it was 4 years ago.
Exactly.
Because
even in austerity.
It can't be paid back.
Exactly, because it can't be paid back.
Because, I mean, George Osborne's saying that there's another £50 billion worth of cuts coming if the Conservatives win the next election.
Yeah.
Okay, now why would you say that? Why would you say that? Well, it's because basically big business, okay, is going to decide who wins the next election.
Mm.
They work for big business.
They do.
Now, £50 billion worth of cuts, okay, it means that your local councils are not going to be able to provide the same level of services that they do today. Mm. Now, the Independent Living Fund that disabled people enjoy, that is actually, they're trying to withdraw it. Mm. Not just some small, they're trying to withdraw it completely.
Completely, yeah.
Right, this is where, you know, disabled people who can live independently in the community with this fund will no longer be able to.
No.
Now, here in Ripon, we have 2 new properties being built. One is NHS, and the other one appears to be a private concern. We've just learned over the past week or so what these 2 properties are for. The big one, which looks like a travel lodge, it does look like a travel lodge, we now learn is for elderly dementia patients. But it's NHS. Right? And it's got no visiting parking spaces.
It hasn't.
So what we find is what's going to be going on here is difficult to handle dementia patients, elderly. Euthanasia, anybody? The other one, we understand, is private money building it, and what's going to go in there is young people who have mental conditions. These are 2 buildings in Ripon that never existed before.
No, they didn't.
And now we have, in the place we live, 2 institutional buildings, because they are institutional buildings.
They are.
You won't be able to get out, and you won't be able to get in, and you won't actually get to know what goes behind those closed doors. And that's just in our little city. What if that's been recreated everywhere? Because they know the next step in our devolution is a big step down. We don't mean to paint the world dark and grey and horrible and unpleasant, but we didn't do it. We just have to say what we see. I still would like to share with everybody that the journey we've had has been enlightening. It's been a lesson that I could never have been taught by anybody else. I had to learn it on my own, alone.
Yeah.
And luckily, once a week, we met up to see where we were on our journeys.
Yeah.
And that was probably what made it easier.
I'd recommend that to anybody.
But it still is a lonely, got to be done on your own journey.
But you need a buddy along the way. You need somebody to ride shotgun with. You do.
We've been lucky enough to have them over.
Yeah.
We've had 1 or 2, haven't we? We've had 1 or 2, and they've not come. They've not come all the way.
No.
And I now learn that you can't wake people up. You can just wake people who want to be woken up, but you can't wake them up if they don't want to.
No.
And it is an awful system, because I still sometimes say, are you and I actually doing just some jolly good work for the New World Order? Are we actually just preparing the people for what's coming?
We are rounding
because
them up,
we
I
are,
think.
aren't we?
Yeah.
We are. Yeah,
we're penning them in.
You know, and I wonder if all we've done is actually having any benefit. But that's not for me to decide. I've just asked the question. I think I'd rather have what I have now than go back to who I was, because out of all the things that I was, I didn't want to be any of them really. I wanted to be different and better. And yes, that might be more critical, and I've been accused of being arrogant, and maybe that's how it comes across. But I know when I look in the mirror, I know there's a better person looking back than there was 7 or 8 years ago. So even if it's not good enough for some, it's better than it used to be. I found the Rise Up official version from the Wayseer, and I like it, so I'm going to finish with that this evening. But anything else you want to add? Next show's Christmas show. We're going to do one.
It is, yeah.
We'll do one next week, and then we'll probably have a couple of weeks off. But I will make sure that we're only 1 week behind now with the show, so I will make sure that Christmas show is up by Christmas Eve.
No, I just want to reiterate that you need to buddy up with somebody. If you're doing this by yourself,
most people do. Go
out and find somebody that you can spend just once a week with, and do as we did. Just bring something to share.
It's easier said than done, though. You're saying that as if everybody could find somebody, and it's almost impossible. You know that.
It is,
because on this wonderful fortune-telling, time-stealing machine. Who's real?
Well,
who's real?
It's got to be flesh and blood.
You need to go to meetings.
You do,
and find someone to buddy up with.
You do, yes.
And then speak to them in a way that, let's not argue about conspiracy theory. No. Let's not do 9/11. Let's not do 7/7. Let's not do the Boston bombings. Let's not
do UFO.
Let's just decide what we can learn.
Yes,
rather than argue about. Propaganda's fantastic because it gives us partly what we need to know.
Yeah.
And we fill in the gaps, don't we? We actually make it fit our reality.
Yeah.
And you've got to keep doing that and doing that and doing that until you know you've actually made your own jigsaw. Because it is that.
Yeah.
Everybody else will give you pieces. Piece, it's available everywhere in pieces.
Pieces, yeah.
But you have to create your own piece. And if you're still warring with other people, they're not warring back with you. So what is it you're fighting? What was it you were fighting? Is there some jealousy or some envy or some problem that you won't admit to yourself? The fault is always bad education.
Yes, always.
And then you look at the 7 deadly sins, and are you guilty of any of those? Christmas show next week. I'm looking forward to that. We'll do a bit of research for that.
Okay.
We'll actually make an effort to do a Christmas show. For Tuesday, the 9th of December 2014. My name is Paul.
Mine was Andy.
And this is the Unpenned Show.
Thanks for listening.
Next week. Thank you for listening.
When you're ready to rise up, you'll rise up. All the power you need is in your hands. Now look around you. Our financial systems have been hijacked by a generation of thieves. While you're working harder and harder for less and less, the game is being rigged against you. They're turning all of us into virtual slaves. Looters, at the heart of our financial system, are price-fixing our most precious resources. Food, water, energy, gold. Even the value of money itself is being siphoned away by high-level crooks in a giant mushrooming conspiracy of unstoppable corruption. They're robbing billions of people of trillions of dollars a year, folks. There is no need for austerity measures. There is no need for financial suffering. No need for poverty. There is no scarcity. We are simply the victims of a robbery of unimaginable proportions. We have been fed a lie so vast it oppresses all of humanity. The truth is, there is more than enough to go around. 60 years ago, productivity was increasing so fast, they predicted by today, entire families could live comfortably on the income of just one provider, working only 10 hours a week. They wondered what we'd do with all of our spare time. What happened to that dream? Turns out they were right. What took a full work week back then can be done in just 10 hours today. We have technologies that multiply our efforts 1,000-fold and connect us in ways they never imagined. We are now 100 times richer than in that great heyday of the 50s. We are heirs to a great bounty of prosperity, $70 trillion in the U.S. alone, over $200,000 for every man, woman, and child. The only reason we don't experience this wealth is because it's being siphoned away by a corrupt criminal class. They loot through giant corporations, raising prices, lowering wages, stealing the fruits of our productivity. Where once whole families prospered with just one provider, now both parents work, delivering 8 times the productivity but struggling to make ends meet. They control the media using hot-button social issues to divide us, brother against brother, so we fight each other while they loot our sacred institutions. They make us fear too big to fail banks collapsing, but if they did, we'd suddenly recover the 8 times our income that's being siphoned away every single day. Don't give yourselves to these crooks who abuse you and enslave you, who steal your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. Let us burn these leeches off our backs. Let us replace their corrupt systems with better systems that benefit everyone. Let us reclaim the fruits of our productivity. Let us share our prosperity. We can do this now. We are the creators, and when we come together, we have the power to create whatever future we want.
It is fantastic, that. It is a lovely song, and it's not wrong, but we're going to have to learn how to work together, and that's not going to work anytime soon.
No.
Politics. I want to finish off something that I didn't finish off properly. Politics. If we don't challenge them and replace them, we'll actually stay where we've always been. You know what that is?
Right where we are now.